Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Mark Roden. First off, I want to say I'm sorry for the wait. I promised you guys daily uploads and it's been 2 days since I posted. But unfortunately, I've been working on my car for the past 2 days and I didn't think I would have to because we fixed the problem, but then another problem came back, so I've been trying to get that fixed. So I apologize, but I am going to try my best to keep them coming daily. Anyway, today is top 10 front-wheel drive cars for under $10,000 because you guys love the $10,000 videos. And so why not just keep doing them? We already did rear-wheel drive, so now it's front-wheel drive. I'm sure you can guess what's going to be next. That's right, one-wheel drive. Just kidding, it's going to be all-wheel drive, obviously. But anyway, if you guys enjoy, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to comment down below. Before you even watch the video, comment down below what your favorite front-wheel drive car is, and let's get into it. Number 10 is the Ford Focus ST, which came with a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4 that made a whopping 252 horsepower, which is not bad, and it was obviously a hatchback, and as we all know, front wheel drive is the home of hatchbacks, so we're probably going to see our fair share today. But I try to stay away from the basic ones like the GTI, even though I'm gonna admit the GTI is easily one of the best front wheel drive cars that you can get for under 10K. I'm just putting it out there. Now, the reason I put the ST last is only because it's very, very difficult to find one of these cars for under 10K, but it can be done. Also, once you have done it, you'll fall in love with it, man. You're gonna be like, it's worth more than 10K to you. The community is great. The mods are good. Most people think they're slow for some reason, but you can still take some people to Applebee's in them. And the main thing that you want a Focus ST for is canyon carving. It is perfect at that. Number 9 is the Volkswagen Jetta GLI MK6, and that came with a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4, literally just like the Focus ST. But this one made only 210 horsepower, unlike the Focus ST, and it was a sedan, unlike the Focus ST. Pretty much it's a GTI, but in a sedan form. I'm just gonna put it out there. People are gonna argue with me, but if you ever wanted a GTI, but you didn't want to be basic, go with the Jetta GLI. They're pretty much the same thing, and as I've said before, the Volkswagen line of sports cars is easily one of the best front-wheel drive lines out there. Now, compared to the ST, if somebody was like, here, you can have this Jetta GLI or an ST, which one would you choose? I would choose the ST. The only problem is, like I said before, the ST is hard to find under 10K, whereas the Jetta GLI, you can find it all the time under 10K. Also, this car is the opposite of fast looking. I mean, it looks like a daily sedan. So if you want to surprise some people, man, this is a great choice. Number 8 is the Mitsubishi 3000 GT, which came with a 3-liter V6 that made 161 horsepower. And yes, I know that's very low for what we've already gone over, but you get the ability of owning a JDM Legend, kinda. But now we're not talking about the VR4, which is, okay, yeah, the JDM Legend 3000 GT is a VR4 one, and we're not talking about the VR4, so technically it's not the legendary one, but it's still a 3000 GT, and it still looks the same. It's also, they're a little too expensive. The VR4s are just a little bit too expensive, and I know that's unfortunate, but we all start somewhere, man, and maybe your next car can be the VR4, but given this car, I mean, it's still such a great choice if you want to get like a cheap power out of a car, but just be careful when buying one, since most of them, like, you look on Facebook Marketplace, most of them are like, doesn't run. I don't know what's going on with that, but also I heard it's a really big pain to work on, so just be careful. It's not going to be the most fun when you first get it, but it'll be worth it once it's ready. Number 7 is the Chevrolet Cobalt SS, which came with a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4 that made 260 horsepower. It also came with a supercharged version of that, which only made like 210. The more you know. Also, this car was way too underrated. I said it before, I've said it again. The Cobalt SS is such an underrated legend. They have a freaking turbo too. Just keep that in mind. They had a turbo when they came out in like the early 2000s, which is pretty impressive. It's definitely a selling point for sure, especially for front-wheel drive cars. For some reason, when these came out, it's like the car community just got like flash banged, and then no one saw them. Nobody really talks about this car. It just went under everybody's radar. But I don't know why. If you want one, I mean, I guess that's a good thing because now they're really cheap since nobody knows what they are. But honestly, these cars deserve so much more hype. They're such a good, interesting car, and I want to see somebody just build one to be an absolute monster. Number 6 is the Honda Civic Si 8th generation, which came with a 2-liter inline 4 that made 197 horsepower, and they are legends when it comes to the tuning scene. If you want to know more about the Honda Civic 8th generation, check out my video called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly on the Honda Civic 8th gen. Just Shameless plug. But anyway, I think if you're looking for a car that you can daily drive, but also you want to build into a beast and all of that for very cheap, the Civic is easily the best choice. I mean, this generation of Civic given wasn't the best for building power, but it's still good. Every Civic is just notorious for being able to have like 2,000 horsepower, not really, but for only like $500. You know what I mean? It's so cheap to get such good power out of this. It's easily a lot better than most of the cars on this list. Also, another cool part about this car is you're going to be able to be called a racer. And who doesn't like to be called a racer? Number 5, halfway through the list, it's the Mazda Speed 3. That's right, you have to say it with 2 Mazdas because technically the maker is Mazda, but then the model name is also Mazda Speed. So technically when you say the name of this car, you have to say Mazda Speed, which is kind of weird. But anyway, it came with a 2.3 liter turbocharged inline-4 that made 263 horsepower, and it was the second hatchback for today. Also, my personal favorite looking hatchback to ever come out. I love the looks of the Mazda Speed 3. For some reason, I just think the lines of the cars, they just work so well. They're also pretty underrated cars if you really think about it. If I had to guess, I'm gonna be honest, it's probably because Mazda was not known for making front-wheel drive hatchbacks, and then they kind of like, they stepped into no man's land where GTI was already kind of messing it up over there, and they tried to take it away from them and it just didn't work, which is kind of the same reason why the Cobalt SS didn't work, but who knows. They stayed away from there for a reason. They excelled in rear-wheel drive little sports cars, and so now that it's been out for a while, we see the potential, but back then it just didn't work. Number 4 is the Hyundai Veloster Turbo, which came with a 1.6 liter turbocharged inline-4 making 201 horsepower. And that is, yes, that's a very small engine. I mean, I think the EG Civic had a 1.6 liter, and that came out in the freaking 90s. So yes, that's a very small engine, but it's also turbocharged, and it still has 201 horsepower, so that's pretty damn impressive. This car, it is a little weird though, because since it's kind of like the new kid on the block, especially in the hatchback scene, not that many people know what to do with it. They try modding it, but the aftermarket support for it isn't really that big. So most people just stick with like cosmetic mods for it, which then make people think that all Velosters are slow, which is just not the truth. One time, me and my friend Jimmy, who also has a 350Z, raced one on the highway, and he smoked us. He freaking just took us for a full course meal at Applebee's. So who knows? I mean, they can definitely make power, but they're in such a gray area right now that I couldn't put it any higher on the list. Third place is the Mazda MX-6. I bet you never even heard of this car before because I didn't before making this video. But anyway, it came with a 2.5 liter V6 that made 164 horsepower, and it wasn't the best car by any means. All right, I said it. It wasn't reliable, wasn't the best. But I had to put it this high because of how cool and unique it is. Like, I've said it before, I don't really base my list off of like how fast a car is. I just base it off of how much I like the car, and I love the Mazda MX-6. I haven't even heard of this car before someone from Australia sent me a picture of one, and I was immediately fascinated by it. They're obviously meant to be like a successor to the MX-5 or the Miata, but I don't really see the similarities between them. I think it's its own freaking entity, and I think that's awesome. I read somewhere that they can handle a lot of power too, but they're just not too reliably. It's also I think it is the only V6 car on this list that's front wheel drive, and so that's a big plus that it has going for it too, and they're actually really cheap. Second place is the Dodge Neon SRT4, which came with a 2.4 liter turbocharged inline-4. And it made 230 horsepower, and it's an absolute legend when talking about front-wheel drive cars. Not only does everybody and their mama want one of these, but for some reason they beat the whole, like, you know that when Fast and Furious came out and every car company tried to make like cool, you know, sports cars. Dodge made the Neon, Chevy made the Cobalt, Ford made like the Focus, and they were like trying to get like people on board with it. Well, the only one that really won that was the SRT4. They beat that whole like American sports cars aren't cool trend that happened when it came out, and this is like, that's pretty respectful, man. I think that's saying something. If this is the only one that beat all that, I mean, come on. They also were built like freaking tanks. I had a friend who had a Neon SXT, which is actually an even worse version of the SRT4, and that car just freaking took a beating, man. We were driving over the Himalayas. But first place, the car that I think is the best for under $10,000, it's front-wheel drive. It's easily the Acura RSX Type S, and it came with a 2-liter inline-4 that made only 201 horsepower, which does sound small, but in my opinion, they are the king of front-wheel drive cars. Now let me explain why. Nothing really beats Honda when talking about making great front-wheel drive cars. in general, but the RSX Type S came with arguably one of the most legendary engines ever built, the K20. The K20 can handle so much power, and this is a naturally aspirated inline four that made 201 horsepower. You imagine slapping a turbo on a K20, you're making 300 horsepower immediately for $500 freaking dollars and reliably. I think that's really awesome. The K20 was able to handle so much horsepower and for so freaking cheap that so many people pick these cars up, which is good for us since there's a lot of them. And so you can just go out and buy one right now. But parts are dirt cheap. There's everything everywhere for them. The community is massive. And if you think, oh, well, there's not that many people that own RSXs where I'm from. Well, do they own Civics? Because they're the same car pretty much. You have parts are interchangeable between Civics and Acura RSXs. So that's also extremely cool. You can buy a set of coilovers at freaking McDonald's for this car if you wanted to. There's parts everywhere for it. And it's all so cheap. Everything about this cheap power, reliable power, looks awesome, has a huge community around it, huge aftermarket support around it. That's easily the reason why I put it #1 on this list. But that is the end of this list, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you do, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more like it. Also, let me know down below, what car do you think is the best for under $10,000 that's front-wheel drive? I'm interested, and I do want to say again, I'm sorry for not uploading for 2 days. I promised you guys daily uploads, and I already failed on that promise, and so I'm very sorry, but from now on, daily uploads, baby. Daily uploads. I just burped, excuse me. Daily uploads, my boy. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I love each and every single one of you. We're getting so close to 6,000 subscribers. That is mind-blowing. So thank you so much. Das Vidania. Have a nice night.